Most of us have tums if we're over 60 and we've gone through the menopause, and we all have different body shapes. Some of us are short-waisted, some of us are long-waisted, some are pear-shaped, some are apple-shaped, and some of us, and I'm looking at you, Helen Mirren, have an hourglass shape. Lucky you. Of course, there are variations on that theme, so some short-waisted women have wider shoulders and narrow hips, called an inverted triangle, and some long-waisted women can be straight up and down, so to speak. But the tips I'm going to give you today are for all shapes and sizes, for women who are over 50, over 60, over 70 and beyond, who have gone through the menopause and for whatever reason have acquired a tum. So before we get started, a quick welcome from me, particularly if you're new here. I'm a nearly 70-year-old woman with a tum who loves to talk about beauty and fashion and other bits and bobs that make me happy. And now, without further ado, let me share with you my 9 do's and don'ts to hide your tum. Tip 1, ditch the shapewear. Oh my goodness me. I have worn every type of shapewear you can think of since I was about 15, when I started to get a little bit tubby around the tum. I have tried all sorts of shapewear. I've tried girdles, I've tried bodysuits, I've tried tights that almost come up to your oxters, as the Scots would say. And I must say, if I had to go back to choosing shapewear, the tights were definitely the best of the bunch. But oh, I'm so glad I stopped. Trying to struggle into shapewear just made you feel so uncomfortable about your body, and so uncomfortable when you were wearing them. And try going to the loo, especially in a bodysuit. Oh my goodness me, I am so glad I stopped. Now, I am going to caveat this by saying that if you are going to a special event and you've bought a slinky dress that is showing a few of your lumps and bumps, then of course wear shapewear. I'm not saying never wear it, but please don't think that you have to struggle to put on some kind of shapewear every day when you go out to look your best. You really don't. It's about the clothes that you wear, and it's about how you feel in them that's the most important. Shapewear is just going to make you feel uncomfortable and unhappy, and we really do not want that at this time of our lives. We want to really enjoy what we're wearing and feel great in our clothes. Tip 2 is wear high-waisted trousers. Now, I am deviating from my previous advice when, I think it was last year when I made my jeans video. I said, don't wear high-waisted jeans. Now, I've completely changed my mind about that. I have realised, and I think it was because I was thinking back to the 90s when high-waisted trousers were very popular, and there were those sort of barrel-shaped jeans or barrel-shaped trousers that were in vogue at the time, and I just didn't want to go back to that. But I've realised that actually they are definitely the most comfortable for me because they're going to cover your tum. Now, I do think this will suit all body shapes, particularly if you've chosen a trouser or a pant in a forgiving fabric, so nothing too light or nothing too heavy. So let's say a cotton or a polyester, but a relatively medium weight fabric, I would say, so that you don't need to tuck in your top and you'll be protecting your tum while enhancing your silhouette. So in a way, with high-waisted trousers, you're doing the opposite of what a girdle would do. You're letting it all hang out, albeit in a material which isn't see-through or tight, and so it's being enclosed rather than compacted. And it means that a top will sit nicely over the top, and it won't make a big deal out of your tum area. Tip 3, don't wear skirts. Now, I know this might sound a bit radical, and I actually do not own a skirt. But a skirt is not your friend if you have a tum. Skirts are going to cut you in the middle just where you don't want to be cut, so to speak. And like I say, I don't own a skirt, and I haven't actually owned a skirt for years because they just don't flatter me. So at a pinch, if you are a pear-shaped or an hourglass with a bit of a tum, you could wear a skirt because you're likely to have a smaller waist, particularly if you're an hourglass. But if you can stay away from them, I would. Also, if you wear a top over, say, an A-line skirt, it's going to make you wider at the hips, which is not really what you want when you're trying to draw eyes away from that area of your body. So unless you're absolutely wedded to wearing skirts, I wouldn't. Tip 4, do wear elasticated waists. Yes, really, this is something that I thought I would never say, but they have been an absolute game changer for me. And I think for so many women since lockdown, and you can find so many fashionable clothing items that have elasticated waists in the shops now. And importantly, they do look stylish as well as being comfortable. Now I've got 5 pairs of elasticated waist trousers for spring and summer, and I'm looking forward to finding some for fall and winter too. Now of course it does depend on the fabric, but I find linen and other lighter fabrics both comfortable and concealing. So don't fear the elasticated waist, it is your friend. Tip 5. Do wear tops that cover your tum, but think about how to style them. Don't think that you have to wear voluminous tops down to your knees to conceal your tum, because they'll just make you look wider as well, but do a half tuck. I tend to use a vest top, or I'll use a scrunchie. So there are ways to disguise your tum without making people wonder what you are concealing, especially if the top is in a darker colour. This tip is something I've leaned into over the past year or so because I always thought that I had to wear everything loose. But now with the advent of the half tuck or the half the shirt out and half the shirt not out and all of that, it's made me more adventurous, and I really do think that actually it's a lot more flattering to turn up a top rather than leave it all loose. And that's not to say you can't have a long top with a shorter top underneath and a belt, for example. I do think that playing around with the shape of the top will make you feel more comfortable and more confident, and will also stop you from feeling self-conscious about your tum and make you feel proud of your body rather than trying to hide it. Because this video is not about hiding your body, it's purely about making the best of your body and just concealing the bits that you're not as keen on and making the most of the bits that you are. Now for tip 6, I asked AI how they would recommend concealing a tum. And the results are very interesting. So one of their tips was to use a particular type of fabric. Now they suggested silk, for example, which I think is completely wrong because silk is not a forgiving fabric. It really isn't. It's very light, and the closer it is to your body, the more likely it is to show up the bits that you don't want it to show, particularly the tummy area. Now you often find that silk dresses, for example, are styled on the bias, which is an absolute no-no for women who want to hide their tum. Gosh, I remember back in the 90s, I think, or maybe it was the early 2000s, there's a fantastic brand called Ghost, and they made some beautiful dresses, which loads of us where I live were buying to go out to parties and do's and all of that kind of thing that we did back in our 40s and 50s. But honestly, I think we were sold a bum steer. They really don't flatter women who've got tums, and particularly women who've got short bodies like mine. They just look all wrong. They show up all the lumps and bumps. So I would definitely steer clear of very light fabrics, particularly if they are moulded to your body. And part of the problem also is that they tend to stick, especially in the hot weather. So they are not forgiving fabrics at all. So a very light fabric like silk is really not appropriate for us women with tums. Now tip 7, again from AI, was to wear an empire line. I feel a bit ambivalent about an empire line dress, and I can see why AI would suggest it, but to me it smacks of maternity wear, and it probably is a hangover from my own hang-ups about my weight when I was a lot bigger. But an empire line comes under the bust and then is looser. Yes, I can see that it would disguise your tum, but I wouldn't feel comfortable in an empire line dress, particularly as they look a bit girly in my opinion, and I don't feel that they would suit my age. Now, I don't believe in dressing appropriately for your age because I don't think there is such a thing. But personally, I feel an empire line dress that tends to have little puff sleeves just doesn't look right on me. I mean, maybe it never would have looked right on me, even when I was 17, I don't know. But I definitely don't feel right in that kind of dress. So for me, an empire line just isn't right. I think maybe if you were tall, it might suit you better, even if you had a tum. So I can see that obviously of itself, it is going to disguise it, but it's just not something that I would feel comfortable in. So if you are comfortable in an empire line dress, go for it. It will certainly disguise your tum because it will be covering up the part that you don't want to show. But personally, I wouldn't wear one. Now, tip 8, and again suggested by AI, is to wear a wrap dress. I cannot tell you again how I was sold a bum steer by Diane von Furstenberg, or at least the people who recommended that you should wear a DVF dress if you've got a tum. They do not suit everybody. They really don't, especially us short-waisted women. I bought quite a lot of DVF dresses back in the day. And honestly, although I don't have any photos to show you, of me wearing them, they really did not suit me at all because they're cutting you in the middle. So why anybody thinks that anybody who wants to hide a tum needs to be cut in the middle, I don't know. Now, to caveat that, I think if you have got an hourglass figure, you will suit them, although your tummy is then going to bulge out, I think, if you're being cinched in at the waist, because a wrap dress is in a jersey fabric. So again, it's not a forgiving fabric. So I'm afraid I completely disagree with AI on this one. And tip 9, which is also from AI, is they recommend not wearing high-waisted trousers. Well, I think that's very interesting. And they say that high-waisted trousers might make you feel self-conscious. I don't know where they get that from. Well, obviously they get it from somebody who inputted the information into AI in the first place. But I completely disagree with that. As I said at the outset, I think that high-waisted trousers are absolutely ideal for us women with tums. Because if you wear a lower-waisted trouser or a mid-rise, it's going to cut you in the middle, and that's what you don't want. It's like wearing a skirt, really. You do not want something that cuts you in the middle, even though that is your narrowest part, unless perhaps you're an apple shape. I don't agree with this whole creating an hourglass shape and that's the aspirational shape for all women. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's wrong because I cannot ever look like an hourglass. I mean, my waist is just too big for that and it wouldn't flatter me, and I don't want to be cut in half by wearing a belt or something that's cinching me in here. I really don't like that, and it makes me feel uncomfortable and self-conscious. So I think high-rise trousers and tops that come over the top but aren't too long are the way to go for us women with tums. So there you have it. Those are my 9 tips for disguising your tum. So what do you think? Do you agree with any of the tips that I've mentioned here, or have you got any tips that you'd like to share with us? Because I'm always searching for the best solutions and I'm always open to suggestions. And it would be really great to hear from women with different body shapes who have tips on how they disguise their tum or not. And thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video has been helpful. And if it has, I'd be so grateful if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And talking of subscribing, I actually have a monthly newsletter in which I share not just my beauty and fashion favourites, but also books, music, podcasts, movies, and all the lovely things that enhance our lives. And thanks again so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me. It really does. And I hope you're all doing really well. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video. Bye.